We've noticed a change in this, haven't we?
What's important, I think, for us to really look at is consumer behavior.
That's how we react as humans. We want it fast, we want it now.
And if you're still using the same marketing tactics, the same messaging, the same approach to that consumer from 10 years ago, you're missing out.
The consumer out there is thinking, there might be a better alternative.
We've found the institutions, we've brought them together in one place. And all of a sudden, you're instantly going in with 6, 7 offers, telling the person who wants to sell their house that I have 6, 7 offers right now. Hey, and we're back once again with the Real Estate Consumer Shift. I am Jason Wells, one of your hosts, along with my friend
Tim Evans. Wellesley, what's going on today? What's happening? What are we talking about, man?
Every day is just a great day.
It is.
Every day is a great day, especially if I get to be on here and talk with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta share something. So there's a lot of commercials out there, and we see them all. The Geico commercial, like "Don't be like your parents." I don't know if you ever watched that.
It's
hysterical,
becoming like
right?
your parents. Yes.
Like becoming, yeah, that's it. Becoming like your parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I have something when I travel. It's having the paper ticket. And you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Jacob, do you use the paper ticket? No.
I've got it down to the QR code on my watch. I'm sorry.
You got it down to the QR code to watch. Yeah, so like I cannot let go of that paper yet. So that sort of brings us in today's topic. We're going to talk about some things that at some point I'm going to have to change.
Yes,
because I'm tired of my wife saying you're just like your parents. Yep. You're just like your dad.
And what it is change is always there. It's just whether your participation's optional, and it's only optional until it's forced on you.
Yes.
Right. And I think what we were talking about, the fact that right now in the real estate industry, we are in a state of you can choose to change, but the forced change is on a clock. It's coming. We talked about that NAR settlement. They are supposed to go into effect in July, provided that the court approves it. So let's just assume that the court does approve that NAR settlement we talked about in a previous podcast. And because they approve it, we'll just assume, like I said, that they do. That means everything changes at that point. And if you are not prepared, if you have not practiced, if you have not positioned yourself to work in that new world because you didn't choose to change, you didn't get rid of the paper ticket and start figuring out how to do it digitally. At some point, they're going to say, I'm going to charge you $100 to print that ticket, Mr. Evans.
I know. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about when they eliminate the paper stub.
Mm-hmm.
And I half the time lose them anyways. My wife has to follow behind me and pick them up, and I'm leaving them in the restaurant.
She screenshotted it and has it on her phone, doesn't she?
Yeah, exactly. But they're going to go away, and I don't know how I'm going to travel.
Yep.
I'm going to just be messed up.
There's going to come a time it's going to get forced on you.
It's going to get forced on me. So I think that brings today some great light. We're going to talk a little bit about when the change happens, and it's coming soon. For you guys, folks listening, agents listening, I think also for the consumer, right? Mm-hmm. How's the buyer going to react, and what are the things there? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this is going to come on us quick. So as a buyer that's helping, as an agent helping out a buyer, Jason, what are your thoughts? What are the things they need to be right now sort of positioning and embracing to get the thinking right?
That is the right question.
Right.
Where should your mindset be right now as an agent who represents buyers? And the NAR suit has put some restrictions on you. The things you have to be aware of is, one, you no longer will be able to even open a door for a client without them having signed some sort of an employment agreement. We call it a buyer broker here. So whatever you call it, we're going to refer to it as a buyer broker. You have to have that signed. The second thing is that in that agreement, the compensation has to be definitive, either a solid dollar amount or a solid percentage. There's no variance. There's no offset like it's 2.5% or whatever the seller's offering. Nope, it's a number and that's it. It has to be very, very clear. The reason that they're doing this is because NAR's reaction to what they believe the consumer is saying is that they need to have full transparency. So the transparency that NAR now is trying to introduce is you can't work with an agent, consumer, unless you sign a paper that says you have an engagement. That's as an attorney, that's what we do. We have engagement letters and stuff. So you have to sign this before you can open the door. Second thing is you have to be unequivocally clear about what the fee is. And we're now no longer going to let you slide it based on if the seller was offering you 3% or 2.5%, because the seller may be offering you nothing. But it has to be clear. So this creates some opportunities right now. If you choose to lean into this, agents have, Tim, about 2 months, maybe 1 to 2 months, depending when you're listening.
Get quick, isn't it?
To adjust. Yeah. And I refer to this with the agents I coach as this is your time to practice. All right. Yeah. Get out there and practice. You got a safety net. That safety net right now is the MLS. The MLS is still in effect. You're a participant on the MLS. The listing agent is a participant on the MLS. Compensation's offered. It's still shared. There's a safety net. You're not going to go without getting paid. If you have not already implemented into your business the need to use a buyer broker, you start today. It now becomes a non-negotiable. You have to sign it because you need to start practicing those conversations. What do you say when the consumer, the buyer, rejects it and says, oh, I'm not signing that? What does that conversation look like? When they say, well, how many properties is this for? What does that conversation look like? You got to start practicing those right now, because your worst case scenario is that you still get paid, but you only got about 2 months or so of that's going to be the case. Then reality hits, change is forced on you. And if you haven't had those conversations, oh boy.
That ticket stub's going away.
That's right.
And so folks that are not real estate agents or you don't know what NAR is, it's National Association of Realtors, enforced this back a few months. And I think what was interesting, you can be a member of NAR or you can be not a member of NAR. And even because of the suit and the case that is now settled or starting to start settling.
It's case law,
It's
right?
case law. So if you were to go outside of NAR and you start participating in fees and seller fees and, distributing over, there is some issue with that as well, because a seller could come up against that and say, hey, you didn't disclose that properly. I didn't know I was paying those fees. And boy, that could walk you right into some harm's way as well, right? Is that correct?
It seems like millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars of what we've seen is the repercussions for that. So yes, that absolutely can be the case.
So right now you are going to have to list your buyers. And so I think that brings up a really good perspective. What value, what are you bringing to the table? So it's just like when you're helping a seller or presenting to a seller your package in a listing, right? All the services and things that you do for a seller. Same thing for a buyer now. You're going to have to convince them that you are the agent of choice, that you will be the one that's going to give them all of the things that they need and that they can find the right home. And the other thing is be able to purchase a home, right? Because that's the other part of this. They have to pay now. If you want to get paid, it's part of the buyer fee.
Well, it's part of the buyer fee. And that's why what you were alluding to right there is the need to have your value in an articulable, that's a word. I'm going to articulate a non-articulatable word. There we go. You have to be able to explain your value. You have to be able to do it in such a way that the consumer understands it and that they know why I'm going to sign that buyer broker. But let's make no mistake. If you don't go out there, going back to this, let's make no mistake. If you don't go out there and practice right now those conversations and getting those buyer brokers signed, you're in big trouble. In fact, what you should be doing is saying, in our local MLS, what is the prevailing co-broke that's offered? I can tell you here in Phoenix, I've been tracking it, 57% of all co-brokes offered on the MLS are 2.5%.
2.5. Okay.
Only 25% are 3% or more.
Okay.
So 2.5% is the prevailing amount that's offered. That's
in your typical average in the NAR, in the average day of living. So some agents make more, some agents make less. Correct. Some agents know how to leverage. Let me ask you this question. This is something I see happening, and let me get your perspective on it. So the agents, there's going to be some smart agents out. They're going to start wrapping that cost of their commission into the agreement. We're just going to start seeing that. So they're going to load that into some terms or to some escalation type clauses.
You mean in the contract, purchase contract?
In the purchase contract. Yes. What is your? I know we touched on that a couple weeks ago in the podcast. What is your thought on that? And how do you think over time that's the way it's going to be and it'll stay that way, or do you think because of lending and appraisals and things like that, do you think there's some shortcomings with that coming?
I think it's a both and, Tim. I think what you have is that the agents now who are really good, they're going to be able to make more than they did just accepting what was given to them on the MLS.
Yeah. Right.
Now, how they get that paid is going to be a matter of different ways. I think whereas before, the contract that got you as the buyer representative, the contract that got you paid was the contract you have with the MLS. And if you're the listing agent, you have a contract with the MLS that says, I'll share. And if I'm there, you sharing with me. That was our contract. So to now put my fees into the contract,
because the MLS was the agreement, now it's gone.
it's what's called third party obligating, and it didn't work. You couldn't really do that. Now that's going to change because that will go away. And now it'll be just like you see in the commercial world where I submit an offer to the listing agent, and there's going to be on there some sort of note that we want 3% in concessions to go towards buyer agent fees. And we're going to be asking you to pay it. So I think we're going to see that become a norm that is part of it. Part of have the sellers that will say, yeah, we're offering 2, 3, whatever it is towards a buyer agent. I think, though, you're also going to see loan products start to come out that will allow you to finance the buyer agent fees in the event that it's not offered by the listing or the selling, the seller, excuse me. If the seller's not offering one, they're only offering compensation to their agent, they're not offering anything to a buyer agent, I think we're going to see loan products that will allow you to finance that fee for the buyer agent.
I totally agree, and I see this coming, and I'm just going to share it, and we're gonna discover this soon. You're going to get on your listing, if you have a listing. Let's just say you have 123 Main Street down the street listed, and the sign's hanging. A buyer will still see these homes, I'm assuming, because they will syndicate out there, right?
Yep.
That part doesn't change, right?
Yep. So, none of that's going to change. MLS still serves a function to get those properties out to the masses.
To the world, right. They're in the universe. So what I foresee happening is that buyer will hit that sign, 123 Main Street, call the listing agent, not be working with the buyer agent and say, hey, Jason, you're the listing agent on this? Yes. I see you have it for sale. Yes. Do you mind showing it to me? So, yep, you go in and show it, and so they see it, they like it. Say, hey, since you represent the seller and you have your commission, why don't you reduce your commission and we'll make an offer on it? They're going to try to leverage your commission in the deal. Well, I can almost see that. I know that that's going to happen, and that's going to be a piece that will play out. Now, how do you guard that?
Well, don't we actually already see that happen sometimes?
We do. That's why but you're really going to see it.
We already have the buyer who calls and is like, oh, I'm only going to work with the listing agent because then I'll get a better deal and there won't be a co-broke to pay. And now would you bring your fee down? And so we do see that, but
an unrepresented buyer.
But now I think, yes, you're going to see that with more abundance that it's going to happen. And so as a listing agent, you have to understand that you are not in a position where you're letting your compensation come between the transaction. That doesn't fit that ethical standard when they make an offer wanting you to drop it. That's not it. And as an agent for myself, it's going to every time be, well, you write up the contract and I'll present it. Right? I ain't doing it for you. Write up an actual contract. Don't send me an email. Write me a contract. So that's going to be a barrier for a lot of buyers that they won't be able to complete it because there is this thing called the statute of frauds, and you as the listing agent are going to have to stay in compliance with it. So if the buyer doesn't submit you an actual written contract that has all the legal description, the terms, the closing date, all the stuff that it's supposed to have, you can't even. So you don't even have an actual offer.
And I got to, because this is how my brain works, right? So let's just play with this a little bit. So wink, wink. I got a napkin here, Jason. My price is, $459,000. I want to close it in 30 days. Here you go. And across the table comes the offer. As an agent, what are you supposed to do?
Well, as an agent, you're supposed to present all offers. I would argue, though, that that's not an actual offer because we don't satisfy the statute of frauds.
Okay.
And that I then don't have an obligation to actually present it because it's not a real offer. However, what I would do with it, you throw on that those are the terms. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to call up my client and say, "Well, we've got this thing. I don't know how legit it is.
I got an offer on a napkin.
It's on a napkin, and it looks like we got some beer or something that's spilled out on it. I can't tell if this is an 8 or a 6.
Some chicken wing juice on it, right?
Right.
The guy wiped his. But okay, and I think to that age, to the seller's like, hey, okay, here it is. But there's they didn't address inspections, they didn't address this, or all different kinds of things that are in the purchase agreement. Like in Arizona, like other states, there's 9, 10, 12, some 14 pages of information that is needed to thoroughly close the transaction, right? Title company.
Yes, it is, because the title, a lot of those instructions to the title company come from the purchase contract. And the title company won't do it without written instruction.
So I'd say, seller, would you like to do it? But I would try to get it on a purchase contract. Totally. Are you okay with that? And I'm going to give them a contract. They can write it up.
Yep. Completely.
They're, I guess, unrepresented at that point. But I don't know. I think that's going to, how that's going to play out and how we maneuver through that. I know that that's going to happen. I just see it coming like a freight train upon us.
And any agent out there that isn't going through right now, practice these conversations, whether it's role playing with another agent in the office, role playing with ChatGPT. You can do that. You can just say who you are, like make yourself as the buyer, and this is my situation. Now role play with me, and it'll role play with you. So there's ways for you to practice this. If you're not practicing these situations we're talking about,
it's going to catch you off guard.
You're going to be trying to board the plane and you don't have your paper ticket.
I'm in trouble. They're going to say, "Get out of here."
That's right.
They're going to. But though, we joke about it, but that's really the truth. We are sort of in our own way and stuck just because we've been doing the same things over and over and over again. The paradigm is shifting, and we have to. The thoughts are shifting, and the process is shifting, and we have to shift our paradigm over to a different way and some different methods. And that's why I brought that up, because I know at some point I'm gonna have to.
Those sorts of things are absolutely going to come up. If there's a takeaway to this, Tim, I would say that it's anyone listening is to know that this is your time to practice. You have the safety net that the MLS will ensure that you are getting paid. There's a co-broke offered through there. You're going to still get paid. So my recommendation, start signing those buyer brokers, those employment agreements with a higher percentage than what is normally offered on your MLS. When I was in production, I used to always put 4%. I didn't care what was on there. I always just put 4% was my fee, and that's what I billed. I also had a transaction fee on there, and that's how it worked.
And people would sign it, and we think like, oh, they're not going to sign it, and they think they know, right? It's like, oh, they're going to cut me down to 3.
Right.
No, they just sign it. Sometimes we think like our own objections internally speak to us like, oh, this isn't going to happen.
Right.
And
you know where I learned? You know where I learned to do that? To put 4% instead of like a 2.5% or 3% or just whatever is offered. I learned to put 4%. You know where I learned that? I learned that from you and Carol Royce.
There you go.
In a class that I attended, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I absolutely got to do this. So I started doing this years ago, and I can't tell you how many closing tables I walked away from having paid more compensation than the listing agent did. And I get a call from the listing agent being like, how in the world did you do that? That's not what I was offering. This is that.
Yeah.
You now have the opportunity to do that. Put the additional amount in there. If you don't get it, you still get what's on the MLS.
That's right.
But go practice.
Practice. And then, hey, Jason, I know we're out of time. We're going to have a great podcast next week. And here's what we're going to talk about. So all this stuff with the buyers, I think there's a value piece that we offer that will almost always ensure that you sign your buyers to an agreement. And that's going to be exciting when we talk about this next week. So we'll always dangle that carrot in front of you.
This will be the thing that takes you a step above anyone else in your market, that gives you the thing that nobody else in your market has.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you show this, you're going to be in the driver's seat and be able to sign all these buyers up. So it's just going to be like listing your buyers. So catch us next week. Jason, take us down.
That's it. The Real Estate Consumer Shift, we're here to bring it to you. Whether we're talking about NAR, National Association of Realtors, or other alphabet soup, we're going to bring the latest things that's happening for anything in the real estate industry for you as agents and as consumers. We'll see you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.